What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I have the opportunity to install a worn winch on this Tremor. This was ordered from the factory. Follow this video and find out the proper way to install the factory winch on the front of your Superduty. All right, guys, let's check this out. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Make sure to drop down and hit that like and subscribe. This is something that was a long time coming. A lot of people have been asking if I was going to be installing a winch on a Tremor, and today I am. We're going to go through the installation and show you the way that I am going to install it. We're going to be removing the front bumper and some of the stuff behind it. I'm going to show you how to run the wiring so that it is as factory as possible, and obviously we want to have a flawless operation when we are utilizing the front winch in those trouble conditions. All right, let me get this on the hoist and let's get it started. All right, I have everything unboxed, the complete kit, totally unpackaged, the controller box, the brackets that's going behind the winch. This is going right up around the winch after it is installed. Obviously, here's the sticker to tell you if it's free spool or engaged. We are going to have to pay close attention to this particular model because of the cruise control module that's on the front of this. If you did not have that from the factory, you are not going to have to worry about that, but there's going to be some extra calibration that's going to need to take place after. The beauty ring around the front, if you have the wireless feature on your winch, after you pull, you have a receptacle, and that is going to be for your wireless dongle. This is going to be able to install on the front of it or at the controller box. There's another plug you can pull off. However you'd like to do it, you have the wireless controller available with your kit. Now, this was a factory option. If you don't want to use the wireless, you have a corded reel. I don't know how long the cable is, but in the instructions, I'm sure it tells you what that is. A worn goodie that came in the box, the hook, and a little Ford Performance blue strap. Oh, and I can't forget the biggest piece of it all. This is the winch. Check it out. Ford logo right on it. Even have the Warn logo. We are going to install this in a fashion that is going to look the most OE. What I'm going to start with right now is removing this front bumper. One of the things I'm going to right off the rip do is take out all of these push pins and remove this whole piece, because the bumper fasteners are going to be right here behind the plastic piece. Additionally, I am going to be removing both 15 mil bolts on the insides of the bumper right around the edge. These two 15s on both sides. You can see them here. There's also going to be an electrical connector right here that we're going to need to remove. That is going to be the whole wiring for the whole bumper, the cruise control module, look at that star white, and the fog light over here. Now, one of the things that we're going to have to take into consideration is this trim clip here. This is going to want to start sagging once you pull the bumper down. This is attached to the bumper, vice versa with this side, so take note. But also, if your vehicle is equipped with a block heater cable, this one's still got the tape on it from the factory, we are going to have to slowly disconnect each trim clip from behind the bumper, because this is going to have to be rerouted once we get the winch on there. So I am going to get this lifted up. I already have the hoist set, and I am going to get an assistant. I'm going to be removing the front bumper. 2 18s, 2 18s, 2 18s, 2 18s, and then the 15 here the two 15s there, that electrical connector, and these pieces that I just told you about. Next shot, bumper's coming off. All right, yeah, bumper's off, no big deal. 18s, I told you got some 15s here. I've taken the block heater cable and just kind of looped it up out of my way. But this is going to be our working area right now, and I have the bumper flipped up over on here, and what we're going to need to do is take this off of the bumper. We have a few 8s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'll have to remove some of the trim clips obviously from right here. So let me get this off of here and we'll look at the bumper a little more bare. Alright, that is removed, got all of the 8s out. Now we're going to have to pay close attention to the cruise control module bracket. Now I am saving all of the retainers that I have taken off. I'm going to be giving this back obviously to the customer, but we are going to need to remove this bracket from the bumper as well. We have 2 8s down here, 2 8s here, and we're going to fully remove the cruise control module bracket and module from the bumper. Alright, I completely forgot to start off by saying underneath the bumper there are 2 bolts that we need to remove. Here are the instructions. Here are the instructions. Underneath we need to discard and remove these 2 bolts right here. It's right next to where your license plate bracket would go. This is the passenger side, so we're going to be taking these 2 bolts out right here. 8 millis coming out. Now I'm not going to reuse these bolts. Not going to reuse them, but I am going to be taking these 2 J clips. We need to remove these J clips right here, and we need to put them on the spoiler like this. So now what you're going to do is I have some extra fastener. These are some flush mounted screws. The ones you guys are going to need are these right here. Kind of the same thing. Those look a little more raised up. These are a little more flat, but nonetheless they're still going to work just fine. They're going to line them up. Gonna line up the hole here. Got this one lined up. You just cinch them down. Okay, now that's gonna take care of that. We want to make sure that these bolts in this location, we're not gonna hit the rope when tethering it back into the winch. Alright, instructions. Step 1, we need to remove these nuts and the retainer behind here. We got a bracket that's going on both sides. Remove these 2 nuts and these 2 nuts. Alright, I have a bunch of hardware laid out, and you're going to be going for these 2 brackets right here. Now notice how I have this one facing the floor. You're going to want to fixate this, just let me move it over. You need to fixate this so it's on that plane. It's kind of making like a Y from the side. But once this is like this, you're going to be taking those holes there and mounting it loosely so that this sits like this. Let me get those bolts in. I'm going to be using these smaller bolts. We have 8 large bolts and 2 small bolts. These 2 small bolts are what's going through, that are going through right here and into this hole. Alright, now your Y bracket is loosely installed and it is attached to the metal support bar that is underneath the radiator that's going from frame end to frame end. Okay, next step, we're going to be going for another metal bracket. Let's see what we got. Alright, we're going to be going for this big metal one with the 2 squared carriage bolt holes on the bottom. Alright, we have these black carriage bolts They're going to be going in those squares, and we're going to be affixating this right up in here. All right, it's heavy, I gotta go. Get the metal bracket in. She's gonna look something like this. Still, again, all flimsy. We have our carriage bolts in with a washer and a nut behind them. Slowly but surely, we're gonna get to the next step and see what bracketry we're gonna be adding on. I believe it's gonna be the ones on the side. Let's see what little guys we got. Right, I'm gonna be using these big bolts that came in the kit, and it's kind of self-explanatory. You're going to want to use the bracket that's going to be following the frame line. You don't want to be using the left on the right and the right on the left, but I am going to simply start all of the fasteners one by one. I am not going to tighten them down just yet. Going to start everything loose and get it all mocked up here, so that it is starting to actually look like something. This is the second one we've installed. I thought it was pretty slick. All right, I'm gonna get one more bolt here on the sides, and I'm gonna get one here on the top too. Two more bolts each side. Guys, we're getting that much closer to installing it. The bracket's on, everything is loose. Don't tighten anything down yet. Everything's gotta be loose and flexible so that we have proper alignment. You guys are going to be excited. We're about to set the winch up here. We have 4 bolts that are going to be securing that, 8mm Allen heads. Let's go over to the winch, and I'm going to show you the prep that needs to be done for us to install that. All right, we're over here by the winch, and I have the hardware opened up. Now, I have flipped the winch upside down, and you guys can see these little cavities right where the hole is. We need to slide these nuts in here so that they line up. We're going to do that 4 times. There's 4 of them here. The hole is offset on each side, so you need to make sure you have it in the right way. Otherwise, you got to pull it out and switch it around. All right, let's see if we can do these ones first time. Bingo. Bingo. So these are going to want to fall out. So what I'm going to recommend you do is I'm going to get a little piece of tape, and I'm going to tape these in here, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, I've gone ahead and applied the tape, and have cut the edges off so that we're not going to see any tape remnants when it is finally installed in the vehicle, because I am not going to be able to get that tape out. But this is going to be a 2-person job. You're going to need to have someone hoist this up in there while you start these bolts. Again, I said these are 8mm Allens. I'm going to need a second hand, but the next shot we are going to have the winch mounted up. All right, it is fully mounted in. I started everything loose and went through and tightened everything up. Now, in the beginning it said to tighten these brackets to the frame, but what I found was when you're trying to get the top winch bolts started, these ones right up here, it was a little difficult aligning this bracket through this bracket to get in through the hole on the winch. So I left everything loose, all these brackets, even the bracket that we installed that went across was loose, and I installed the winch. Once I had it hand tight, then I went back and tightened every bracket to the frame, bracket to the spanner bar, vice versa here. I came back on the belly side and tightened the 2 carriage bolts. I tightened these bolts, and I torqued down the winch bolts to their spec. Now, the next step we're really gonna do is gonna be going for the bumper. The next part we're gonna go for is the control pack, and that is gonna be sitting behind the driver's fog light. Let me show you where it's gonna be sitting. Here's the winch controller box. We're gonna be going for this bracket right here. That bracket sits there, and these 2 washers and nuts attach that bracket to this controller box. Let me get these 10 millis tight. So now these are tight. we're gonna take this controller box and I'm gonna mock it up onto the area that I need. This is going to be mounting right here. Okay, and visualize those holes and this box going right here. This is going to be installed after the bumper gets installed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get 2 zip ties and I'm going to mock this up here so it's going to be hanging. I want you guys to mount your controller box like this. Just mock it up so that it's not in the way, it's not hanging, and you're going to want to take your 3 big leads and I'm going to route them behind those big bolts. I'm gonna keep them nice and straight. I don't want them intertwined. You see them coming out of the box like that. I intend to keep them, you know, like that. The power cable that's coming off the box, what I want you guys to do is go behind those bolts like all the other cables, but I want you to come down behind that bracket. I want you to also follow that ground. The ground coming off the winch, you're gonna follow that cavity as well, because we're going to be going up over to that battery. So there's a special way I'm going to show you how to route these. But before we continue, we need to get the little rubber caps that came in the kit, and we need to slide them over the cables down on their respective colors. So the yellow goes to the yellow, green to green, and blue to blue. If you're colorblind, ask somebody who is not, because these have to be hooked up in the right spot. All right, let me get those rubber caps and the cables installed. I have all the wiring hooked up, ran exquisitely, got it tethered to a zip tie just to make sure they all stay together. One thing that you want to hook up is this one black wire. This is going from the controller box to the winch. We're going to tuck that down in there with all the other wires. This guy here is going to be going to the front part that says warn on it. There is an electrical connector that is going to allow the controller to be hooked up to the box via this wire. You can also plug in your dongle for your wireless here, or on the front part that says warn on it. So this brings me to my next spot. We're going to lift this up higher to get the wiring ran, and we're going to go all the way across underneath the radiator, up and under, and to the passenger battery. So let's go underneath and I'm going to show you exactly how I am going to do it. Alright, I have started with the wires that are coming from right behind the winch. This is the ground cable. Remember, I had zip tied it to all the other wires over there. This is the power cable. Now, that's coming from the controller box. This one right here. So what I've done is I've joined the two underneath the truck. I've joined the two underneath the truck right here via this zip tie. Now I am keeping it congruent all the way across. This cable is going to be on this side. It's going to be like that all the way until we get into the top of the vehicle going by the battery. Now what I want you guys to do is go ahead and remove these two 8 millis attaching the lower hose to the bottom of the core support. Now what I did was I went ahead and drilled two 15/64 holes right here, right next to where those bolt. Now I have special trim clips with zip ties and Christmas tree holders. The instructions say they want you to tether all of the wiring to the fan harness, but I thought this looked way more OE looking than tethering it to the fan. So what I did was just that, and now I'm going to put these 8 mil retainers back in their holes, and I'm going to tighten the lower radiator hose back to the core support. Once you get the lower hose tethered to the bottom of the core support, you're going to run your wiring for the battery right up through that hole right there. This is the lower hose, and I'm going against the body. I'll show you once we get up there. It's going to make a little more sense. Let's lower the vehicle down. All right, once you guys get upstairs, take the air filter out. I have a great video showing you how to do that. It's not that hard, but it'll give you just that more room. You guys can already see the red cable actually going exactly where I want it to go. I'm going on the inside of the lower hose and on the inside of this harness. And look, I can see both cables. I'm gonna see if I can grab both of them at the same time and pull them up. I want to keep the same orientation with the red. It looks like I'm getting stopped down there. Let me go ahead and assist this really quick. I'm just going to lay underneath here right now. And I'm just going to try to help this go up. You guys can see the black cable up there is moving. That's just really tight cables. There we go. I think we got them. We got them started. Looks like I'm gonna have to pull up on the negative. Let's see here. There we go. Got the negative up here. Got the positive. Okay, I like how they're sitting. That's the same way they're sitting underneath. Let me just go check one more time. Okay, I'm liking it. I want to put another zip tie right here, securing these two together. I'm going to lift it up and do it though. And that's pretty much where these cables are going to stay, right here. As the wires come up through there, where we were talking in the last scene, I have neatly ran the wires next to the AC line and have followed the positive cable up to the positive side of the battery. Now I have made a little bend in the cable to go onto the passenger side stud. I have made a little cut, an incision on the rubber cover on the battery so that it sits down, not on this trim clip, but it sits down around the cables like it should. I have went and secured the cable with some factory harness tape to keep it in line as it's going down. You can see the negative cable passing right by it, coming up between the upfitter switch relay box and the high current junction panel. If you want to take the upfitter relay box out, you just squeeze these two tabs and it allows you just to get a little more access to where I want that cable to run. The final product looks pretty much like that. The cables ran down by the fan shroud. Let me put the air filter in and then you can see it with it all hooked up. Here it is, all installed. Check it out. Air filter in, wiring hooked up. That looks as factory as it's gonna get. Quick glance. I mean, without having that sticker on it, you would know that that was the winch ground. All right, well, now the next step we're gonna get going is I am gonna start to assemble the front bumper, but I am only gonna be using the outside, at this time, screws and fasteners, bolts and fasteners to secure it, and also the 15s on each side. But we are going to be mounting something in the middle that is going to use the other fasteners. So next shot, we're going to have the bumper on and almost completing installation. All right, I have the bumper already installed. Everything's hooked up except for the middle bolts where the bracket for the rope lead is going to go through. Now what I did was I left everything loose on the bumper and slowly tightened everything from the middle out, taking note that we have a connector that's going to go here. Make sure your rope leads through. Make sure your block heater cable is through. And lastly, when you get done underneath the truck, you're going to want to make sure your bumper harness connector is pushed in and tethered to the frame. I'm going to assemble the rope lead where it's going to mount here in between the bumper tow hooks, and we're gonna loosely mock that up. All right, I've already got the ferro lead already mounted to the bracket. We have a 16 mil bolt, a 17 mil acorn nut. That's gonna be for both of them. There is also a lock washer underneath that. It's pretty self-explanatory, putting the electrical connector through the hole in the bracket, but I wanted to take note at this point in time to show you guys that we have on our cruise control bracket, we have 3 studs. See that top stud? We need to save that. So we're gonna go and take that out right now so that I can screw it into here so there's only 2 threads sticking out. That's gonna help us achieve our alignment angle for our cruise control module. All right, removing that top stud. I'm gonna put that top stud right there. Installed. All right, I have the ferro lead all mounted in. I have pushed on the cruise control module, and I have went around and trimmed the trim piece that goes around the winch and the bumper. I'm not going to be able to reuse the trim clips obviously here on the bottom, but I am going to have to make a modification to this piece that affixes itself right here. Now that the cruise control module is a little farther out, we have just a little bit of plastic. We have just a little bit of plastic that we're going to have to trim to make that sit flush. But other than that, we're pretty much done. I just gotta make a little modification to this, and we're gonna be suiting it up. You're gonna wanna actually measure the side of it. You're gonna wanna measure 1 inch all the way from the top to the bottom and cut the left side off. So it looks something like that. All right, I think that looks pretty swell. I'm gonna go ahead and test fit that up. I think those fingers are gonna engage now. All right, let me push this all the way on. All right, when you get done, this is gonna be on. Nice and not floppy. Everything is pushed in. I got some plastic cutting stuff all over, but for the most part, it is completed. I need to get my hook and attach it to the tow hook. All right, guys, I am finished. This is the Warn Winch on a Superduty. I wanted to show you guys how to install it the way I am going to install it, and was able to reuse the trim piece that goes in this bumper opening. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. If you're installing the winch on front of your Superduty, I mean, the only thing left is for it to actually work. Let's check out the operation, shall we? All right, we're not getting too crazy, but we have it hooked up, and this is pretty freaking sweet. I don't know if you guys have ever been able to use the winch on these Super Duties, but this is the Tremor winch. I just have it hooked to the hoist, and the vehicle is in neutral. We're just hooked up to the hoist. We're not getting crazy, but here it comes. We got a neutral truck tethered to the hoist. Freaking awesome. Let me know if you guys are using your winch on your Super Duty to pull out of some hard spots. Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, sub, share, and I'll catch you guys all next time. See ya!